Hello there! Today I'm here to show you a sculpting video and show you how to make this from a finished punched piece that looks like. So as you're punching, you're going to be creating really long loops. So whatever punch needle you use, you want to make sure that you use it on the longest setting possible, like this one. So I'm going to take this out now just to show you how it's done. It's really simple, but I really wanted to make you a video because it's much easier to explain than in pictures. So when you punch something with a super long setting, you will see an overlap on the other side from the stitches, and that's okay because in order to sculpt and to have a really nice full shape, you actually want to over punch and have almost too many punches on the other side. Normally I don't recommend it, but to get that dome shape, you really want to have a nice and full punched shape. So you see that the loops are really thick and really packed together, and when you touch the shape, it's just going to be really. So in this shape, I punched about every 3 holes, which is a little bit longer than I would normally do, but because there are so many really long loops, you don't have to go super closely together unless your yarn is a little bit thinner, which is when I would suggest you make shorter stitches, because once you cut the shape, you can see from this side, the overlap is not as big. So you really want to have all that extra yarn there, so when you start sculpting, you'll have enough to work. So when I sculpt, I like to start around the shape first and follow its shape, so that I get really nice and clean edge. So you can just simply take your scissors and follow around, and so I'm just going to go and snip around, and I'm sorry the lovely snip sound is gone, but unfortunately the original sound to this video was really damaged, so I had to do a voiceover for this. So anywho, I'm just gonna go around, make sure you don't cut the fabric or a shape that's next to this shape, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and follow along and slowly cut the shape. I would suggest for this scissors that are a little bit larger. You do want something that has a sharper point, however not. And as you're watching me taking the loops out and cutting, you'll notice that I cut them from different directions because the loops like to kind of lay down and kind of take a life on their own, so to speak. So you want to get them from every direction so that you catch as many loops as you can, so you can snip all of them. Sometimes I brush with my scissors like you just saw, just so I can get them to move a little bit, so I can actually see really what still needs to be cut. So when you're first starting, you just want to cut a rough shape. You don't want anything too perfect. You're not going to get anything too perfect because you're going to have multiple rounds of doing this to make sure that you really get the shape that you're looking for. So first, all we're doing is really just making sure that we have the shape followed all around, and you can see the edge. On this one is more domed, whereas on this one it's going straight up, because all we did was cut the loops from the side. So now to create that dome, I'm going to angle my scissors a little bit like so, and I'm going to cut Sometimes hoops like to hide, so I use the point of the scissors to kind of pull them out like this and cut them. That's where the pointy scissors become really. So I'm going to show you how to cut the tip of the petal in a bit, but for now I'm just going to follow the shape and shape which you've heard like a million times, but it is true. So I'm keeping that angle on the scissors, and I'm just cutting from one point and going around and then returning to the same point. And now I'm trimming a little bit more of the first layer that I did, because I can see there are loops now that have fallen. Okay, so let's talk about the tip of the petal a little bit. You can see that on the blue one it's sloping down slightly, so you do want to adjust the angle of your scissors so that you achieve that on this one as well. So the point, or the tip of the scissors, is pointing downwards a little bit, and that's how I'm going to trim it. Be careful not to point it too much, so again, don't snip your fabric or too much of your loops. So just keep going until it's nice and clean. So at this point, there's quite a lot of mess going on the table, which is okay. I'm going to vacuum that in a little bit. But I like to move the loops around with my hand a little bit and my fingers, so I can actually see what's sticking out from the sides. And this is the thing about sculpting, you kind of feel like you're never done. I tend to just, snip, snip, snip. I always find one loop that's kind of sticking out that I don't like, and I just keep trimming. So you kind of just have to stop yourself at some point. So now we're gonna continue on that dome shape again. So I'm gonna make another layer with scissors angled just a tiny bit more again towards the top. Okay, so now that the third cut is done, so we've done 1, 2, 3, and now we're gonna move on to the top. And I'm going to just go straight over and trim all the loops from the top, or most of them. You won't be able to catch all of them because there's always some that are hiding that you'll have to pull out with your scissors, like this one, which is totally normal and totally fine. So you just keep going like this until you get all the loops. You first, pull them out and then snip the. Alright, we have just about enough mess here, so I'm going to vacuum and show you how to do that. Vacuum also helps you actually pull out the loops that are kind of hiding, so you can see what needs to be cut. So I just kind of go around the top, straight up, and then around the shape. Just don't worry, the loops are not going to get pulled out. It's totally fine. You can go. Alright, so that helped quite a lot. You can see there's some loops that are sticking out when you compare it to the blue one. There's some odd bits and ends, as you say. You can see that the shape, around the shape, it's not really too defined like on the blue one. So I'm going to go around and clean that up, and I'm also going to clean up the surface to make sure that the Okay, so one thing I like to check for when I'm doing, especially when I'm doing numerous shapes, is the height. So on the, you can see that it's pretty close, but the orange one is still just a little bit taller. So I'm going to trim off the top to make sure. So you just keep going until you're happy with the overall shape. Sometimes in order to cut the loops on the side, I like to go perpendicular with my scissors like this to grab all of the ones that are really down below by the fabric. You just really have to be careful not to snip the fabric itself. Ta-da! And we're done. Look, it looks really cute. It's a little bit more narrow than the blue one. I don't really mind. It's just really nice and dense. If you wanna, if you were really bothered by it, you can adjust the blue one, but there's no need really.